Yo, 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 what's up? Yo, what's up? What's up? Welcome to the Dynasty Bebop. I am the Fantasy
Yo,
Footboy. This is the Mushroom Dynasty. We are week two. We got two games left on a Monday night. The Monday
Browns
Double.
game day.
Yeah, boy. Get some.
Woo!
Oh, yeah. Yeah, let's get them brown shirts out. Get all the dogs barking.
Right?
The little dogs, the big dogs. All right, let's get some camera time for the little girl. All right, yeah.
Yeah.
She loves the Browns. She gets hyped for Brown season. All right. So, yeah, man. Good to see you. It's been a few days since we've like really got to chat. Always kind of busy on the weekends setting, 25 rosters, watching a bunch of red zones. So, yeah, man, what do you get up to?
Oh, just watching football. I all my weekend days are busy. Got the Mushroom Festival coming up this week, and I got taking care of a bunch of trees in the nursery. I got tons of sleeper trees for people that pawpaws, persimmons, and stuff. You plant them in a few years, I'll have you guys doing real good. But that's all good. That's all behind the scenes stuff that helps keep the Dynasty Bebop flowing here. Keep us funded.
Yep,
and
yep, yep, yep. Yeah, these fancy microphones and all new layout, they don't come for free here, we gotta make the bread somehow. So I know been out there maintaining the streets every night, all night, every night, driving all over Ohio to make sure that your favorite places are up and running the next morning. So yeah, I feel you,
yeah,
man. It's a grind Monday through Friday, and then it's a different grind on the weekends.
yeah, but honestly, I love it. As much stuff ever goes wrong in my life, and is hard. This fantasy football, I think a lot of us really just love to escape into it and just like, forget about everything else and just live in this world of like highs and lows, and it's just fun with friends. and
Exactly. I saw something online the other day that was like talking about was like I feel like I pay like $20 to $50 a year to be in a group chat with my friends. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, yeah, sometimes, but like, like, man, I know I've made a lot of lifelong friends through fantasy. Man, I talk to a lot of people in leagues, and I talk to my own family half the time just because they're always online and good people to talk to. And
Well,
man,
now we're in a league with your family, so
I'm gonna say, yep, got my family into their very first league. My mom has already taken it too serious. Week one, she was projected to win, number one projection going into the week. She gets beat. She hates this game. It's the dumbest thing. I don't want to play fantasy anymore. Week two, she's blowing the guy out. She loves fantasy again. So yeah, that's just I feel like I definitely got the competitive nature from someone. Meanwhile, my dad's 2-0 and he's just cruising. He's not talking about it. He's just being about it, That's just some
right.
people talk about it, some people be about it, and my dad bees about it.
Yeah, this was a big matchup week for us. I know we were facing off in at least like four leagues or something like
I
that.
know.
And
I know. Every time I like logged into another league, I'm like Mushroom Dynasty. Like, dang it. Jeez. Go
yeah,
away.
and you kicked my ass. I had a really bad week. I think I might have lost in every league I wanted to win in and won in the ones that I wanted to lose in. So,
We've got a big boys match coming down to the wire here, and this was our first attempt at a true dynasty startup, and we also did two quarterbacks in this league, so it's a rough league to be in. Even though they're not the sharpest members, there's a lot of guys in this league that are like kind of fantasy savants without trying. Like they make good picks, they grab good guys, like they hold on to the right dudes, and like they're good friends. You went to high school with a lot of them. I'm good friends with a lot of them through previous jobs and being in the neighborhood. So
Yeah.
Awesome, man. Well, that's enough small talk, I guess. We should
Yeah.
probably get into some week 2. We got a lot to talk about. So,
Yeah. What did you see in week 2 that really got you going here?
oh man, well, first of all, Thursday night, my boy Jordan Addison going out there looking like a true first round pick. I'm super stoked for this guy. I mean, I know his ceiling is a little capped. There's that guy Justin Jefferson, who he plays next to. He seems to take up a lot of the targets, but man, like I think you just need. I think he's in the opportunity to get that broken play one or two times a game. Like it's not going to surprise me to see Jordan Addison go out there and score 2 touchdowns in multiple occasions throughout this season. Oh, I wouldn't say more than maybe 2, but I do think that there's a chance for him to go out there, continue to score touchdowns, be efficient on his 7 targets a game, and his snap share has gone up week 1 and week 2, and I think KJ Osborne had a couple of drops this week, and Addison looking like the role. So I'm excited, man. What about you? Anything really stand out for you that got your juices super going?
Devonta Smith, man, looking like the number one on Philadelphia. I've got
Hmm.
no AJ Brown exposure, and I've been betting on Smith. And I'm just asking myself, is this the year that he moves ahead? Like, I'm loving what I'm seeing. He looks like Hurts's favorite target, and he looks like the Heisman winning wide receiver that we saw coming out that we thought could be the top option in
Yeah, you
in
say
that
you saw.
class.
You say I'm sure you saw AJ Brown getting a little upset there on the sideline too. That he wasn't getting targets or whatever was going on. So, I mean, it's hard to not target Devonta Smith because I mean he's got like 3-4 yards of separation, and as much as we love Jalen Hurts in fantasy, I mean he's not a super strong arm quarterback that's gonna be able to really get in there. And Jalen Hurts is smart. I mean, he shouldn't be taking risks. That offense and defense is designed to just be efficient and not take risks. And AJ Brown, as much as he's a game-changing wide receiver, like you're risking it a little bit when you throw it up there because he's not evidently getting tons of separation, but he's going to play bully ball a little bit when he gets there. And I 100% believe AJ Brown's most likely going to come down with it and get the job done when he does. But
Oh
I
yeah,
totally see Devonta Smith is starting to see more 1A than 1B in that offense.
yeah, awesome. Anything
Speaking of
else?
that same offense, man, sorry, real quick. Speaking of that same offense, I just know another. Ugh, I hate it. I don't think I started him in a single league. I feel like an idiot. DeAndre Swift. Man, I love DeAndre Swift. Honestly, like I had a lot of Swift and Taylor, a lot of that 2020 RB class in general, but man, Swift was always kind of like my guy out of that group.
Yeah,
Like I loved the way he played. I love his versatility in an offense, and man, he really showed it, didn't he? Like, and
yeah.
he I mean, he showed the reason why he was, the RB2 in Dynasty going into last season. So, you think that's sustainable for him, or you think this is his job moving forward? Or you think Gainwell is going to come back and eat a piece of that pie?
I have no clue. I have absolutely no clue. I don't, anybody that says they know is full of shit. And like, seeing him act good, perform good like that is gonna help him get on the field more. So it's definitely a positive, but
Hmm.
I see them using Gainwell a lot still because they trust him. They were using him in the Super Bowl. Like, it's he's kind of their guy, and you know, they're just going to be using a blend.
Yeah, 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 man, for sure. I Swift's tough because I mean he's another one of those guys where like after that week you're probably not getting him for a second or maybe even a second and a third maybe, but like most owners are probably gonna want a first, and I think it's gonna be hard to give up a first for that. I mean, it's the profile you want. It does meet a lot of the standards of what you'd want to move at first for, but man, these running backs are just so hard. I just way rather go out and offer a second round pick for Kyron Williams at this point, to be honest.
Right. Right.
um, so yeah, as we're kind of wrapping up week two, I just kind of want to like pull up, how these players are shaking out so far. We're looking at a pretty small sample size, but we are starting to see a little bit of trend. Did we make some right decisions in our drafts? Where were some of the values? And we're talking about more or less how are we going to build out our rosters moving forward. We talked about our startups and trading back and what we're trying to do in our startup to set up our team the right way. So we're going to kind of walk through these top 12 guys' positions, talk about how we like to build out our rosters and how we're going to try to maintain these rosters moving throughout the season. So I'm going to start here with the quarterbacks and see if there's anyone that you're buying, anyone you're selling, or anyone that's just an FTG to you. Number one, Kirk Cousins. Number two, Justin Herbert. Number three, Patrick Mahomes. Then we got Jordan Love, Russell Wilson, Mac Jones, our boy Anthony Richardson, Jalen Hurts, Tua Tagovailoa, Jared Goff, Sam Howell, and Daniel Emmer Effin Jones. Round out your top
Wow.
12. Yeah,
So yeah, no,
quite a list of
I'm
quarterbacks here.
three of those names stick out to me, and
Hmm.
yeah, I'm buying Kirk Cousins. Looking at warp charts from last year, he was a very high warp player, and he's cheap. There's not a quarterback that's going to give you the production that he will. Like at that price, he's like everything that we hoped Aaron Rodgers would be. Well, I mean, those who drafted him, we both of us stayed away from Aaron Rodgers, but he's everything that you were hoping to get out of drafting Aaron Rodgers this year. And what he's like going a round or two later, I believe.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I would even say to take it a step further and say he's everything you wanted out of Joe Burrow, right? I mean, he's
Ooh,
got two elite offensive weapons, a mediocre run game, and a bad defense.
yeah.
That's and a highly efficient quarterback. Yeah, man. I he's totally got top five potential this year. I mean, especially
He's
when
playing
you're
for a
talking about,
contract too.
you say he's trying to make that money. He's due for one, and it's a tough spot for Cousins. It seems like Minnesota hasn't completely committed to him long term, which definitely makes a lot of dynasty gamers nervous about him. So he's definitely a quarterback you can go out there. You feel pretty confident paying anything not inside the top five, 4 or 5 picks for him. Playoff first.
Yeah, I'll give up anything that I'm projecting to be like a 110 or later. It, I don't think I could do it if it's going to be earlier than that. But yeah, I'd throw in something smaller with like a 110 or a late first if I had to, but I'm not going any any pick that's a non-playoff pick is definitely a no from me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think the name for me that sticks out. I mean, like I said, of course, there's a couple, but man, Jordan Love and Mac Jones are definitely
That
two quarterbacks on here. That I mean, Jordan Love has looked every bit of the role, and like some of the stuff that I saw that was cool was just like in the post game, like the defense guys coming up and like really giving Jordan Love a good time, and like it's like, dude, those guys like Jordan Love. I don't remember them really being that way around Aaron Rodgers so much, and I think that he's another one that might be worth kind of buying on the come up here a little bit. People are nervous about him. Same thing with Mac Jones. These are all quarterbacks you could have gotten for single late first, 110, 11, 12s even last year, which is you're talking about trading Dalton Kincaid, Kendre Miller, Zach Charbonnet type players, A Chain at the end of your first round. So I say if you trade any one of those guys for Love or Mac Jones, you're feeling pretty good about it.
Yeah. Jordan Love definitely looking awesome. It's almost like the Green Bay Packers have kind of cracked the code here with the last couple quarterbacks they brought on, bringing them in and letting them sit for a couple years. While it does look like, oh, they're not playing football games and
Yeah.
that we see that have a negative effect on people on the field, but almost playing football games when you're a young quarterback can have more of a negative effect than sitting out because you're getting traumatized and you're seeing ghosts and then you're trying to react to like you don't even know what you're trying to react to because you're not reading the defense at that point once you're rattled.
Yeah, I mean, and you hear all the time is the quarterbacks that make it in the NFL talk about the game slowing down for them. And if you're as a organization able to slow that game down for them while they're not getting slammed by Aaron Donald up the middle, like that's probably gonna be a lot better for their general psyche. And
Right.
confidence is key, man. Like you see a lot of quarterbacks out there. They're just, I mean, man, Baker Mayfield, prime example. Like I don't know if that dude has the talent or not, but I guarantee you he has the confidence. Like, and he's right now he's out there slinging it, bro. Like he looks
Right.
solid in the first couple of weeks. It's just those quarterbacks that have that air of confidence to them. It goes a long way. And if you take it away from them and they lose it, like Sam Darnold, yeah, you really can see some regression on these players. So
Yeah. There was one
cool.
more name sticking out on that
Yeah.
list for me, and that's your guy, the guy down right here, I think, Anthony Richardson.
Yeah, boy.
And dude, go get that guy. Do whatever you gotta do to get him. Sky's the limit, man. He's the real deal.
Yeah.
I'm ready to say it. Like we thought he had that ceiling coming into it, and we thought it was a good bet, but yeah, I'm willing to go put multiple firsts into him right now. Where do you think he's above Drake May and yeah, let's just look at Drake May first. Like who would you rather have on your roster right now? Is Drake May or A Rich?
I mean, for me, it's a rich. I mean, it's the bird in the hand. You know, I have him right now. He's on a team with Michael Pittman, who is like a solid one. I think they built the right wide receivers around him so far, and like a Josh Downs, Alec Pierce. Neither one have done much, but the offense has been very consolidated. Really with his number one target. Um, and I just don't know where these other quarterbacks are going to land. They could end up in Arizona in a garbage fire. They could end up in Atlanta's garbage fire. They could end up in, there's a lot of garbage fires around too that you have to be concerned about. I think that Arizona is definitely the one that's looking primed to have the 101. They're losing the games the right way right now. They had a huge lead and just kind of gave it up because they
Yeah.
knew they know what they're trying to do.
Yeah,
We've watched 1-32.
Dobbs learned a lot while he was on the Browns, so he learned how to give up a game in the fourth quarter.
Yeah. Watch a lot of film on that. Um, so yeah, I have no problem. You know, Anthony Richardson or Caleb. I mean, you just don't know, man. Like I know we like Caleb, but I also hear there's some other stuff about Caleb as well about how he like takes some sacks and how maybe scouts might not view him the same. I've seen some scouts to say they love Drake May as the first quarterback off the board. We always have our speculations about who we think the 101 is, and it's
Yeah.
rarely correct. Over the past few years, outside of Trevor Lawrence, which if you couldn't see Trevor Lawrence coming, then I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
so
So
yeah,
here's the question, I guess. You have the 101. It's a guaranteed 24 101. How much are you willing to add if that's not enough for the A Rich owner right now?
I'm not adding to it. At this point, I think that
Not
they're
even a
pretty.
second?
No, I don't think so. I mean, if I drafted like a startup and I picked the 2024 101, would I add a second to it? No, I wouldn't. If I feel like I had the 101, would I trade it for Anthony Richardson straight up? Yes, I would. Because there's odds that that could be the 102. I'll take a light, slight gamble on it. But I'm saying
Well, yeah,
player for
Anthony
player, Caleb
Richardson
or
is going to.
AR.
Yeah, if you
Yeah,
think you have the 101 and it's your own pick, if you trade for Anthony Richardson, it might stop that from being the 101.
right, right. So, I love the kid. I think he's looked solid. Put up back to back QB1 weeks. Right now sitting at the QB7 spot. I think almost more the question is: are you taking Anthony Richardson, Trevor Lawrence, Joe Burrow, or Justin Herbert?
At this point, I want A Rich just because people are more excited about him. If I've got the pick of all four, give me A Rich because he's the ascending asset, and people see Trevor Lawrence struggling in week 2. They see Joe Burrow having a rough start here, like. We see this guy who's only had 2 games and he's smashed in both of them. So yeah, give me that guy.
Yeah, yeah. I think he's got the tools, man. He's what you're looking for in fantasy. Yeah, he's done it so far. Even if he does have like maybe he sits out a week or two, or if he does get banged up this season, which is definitely a possibility the way he plays. I think that his value installation just through his performance already has already given him 2 to 3 years of being worth multiple first round picks.
Yeah.
I yeah, I mean even Fields, took a full year to show anything, and you were still getting that for him. Second year still up and down. This year, man, I don't know, man. I don't know.
Well, I mean, look at Lance. Lance and A Rich, very comparable draft capital. The third pick, the 5 pick. A Rich, better physical specimen, and he's already done more on the field than Lance did in 2 years.
Yep.
So, and we saw it was really up until he left San Francisco that like there was still people valuing him above a first.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. I 100% agree. So, yeah, I think that yeah, he's a good buy, Mac. I'm okay going out there paying for love. Cousins, honestly, he's a this year play 100%. I don't know. I just he's a dying asset, and every year just gets closer to him being more worth more to your fantasy roster than to the market. And those are just generally players I don't like to get stuck holding on to. So I think there's a good chance that I'm trying to take my cousins and see what the Burrow owner needs right now to move Burrow to Cousins or Cousins to Burrow,
I got it.
or Cousins to Anthony Richardson or something like that.
Yeah, I would say though, if you are a playoff contending team, and you need to acquire a quarterback, Cousins could be a great target because I think, no matter where he lands, even if it's not back with Minnesota next year, I think we get at least 2 more years of production out of him after this year. And so for your 110 or whatever it's going to take to go get him, you're not going to get a quarterback there that's going to give you any years of production. So I can see doing it if you're contending and this is the piece you need to do it. Then I can see investing in him. But yeah, I do like the idea of taking him and tiering him up because I'm not going to tier up players very much, but once they start to get old, that's when I will look at tiering up a player.
Yeah, because I mean, just even a quick age check here. Matt Stafford, Kirk Cousins. They're both 35. It's you know 35 was the cliff a lot of times for a lot of these quarterbacks. Tom Brady been really extending that cliff. Hall of Fame quarterbacks do that.
You said
I
do do.
They do that. Um, I just don't know if Kirk Cousins is doo doo or if he's gonna do that. So, yeah, I think that there's a lot of other quarterback owners that are nervous, or you can say Jordan Love owners that aren't maybe completely bought in. I just think there's a lot of good pivot moves off of Kirk Cousins right now. The buy window was probably closed. It was probably in the past 4 or 5 months more. Now,
Yeah.
as the QB1 on the year so far, it's making it harder. Um,
Right.
all right, let's move on to these running backs. See if there's any because you haven't had a chance to check on these yet, have you? So some of these are news to you.
Some of them are, yeah.
Um, RBs number one, Christian McCaffrey. Then we got Kyron Williams, and then we got B Robinson.
Which B
I mean
Robinson?
Brian Robinson, and then
What?
RB4 B Robinson,
Hmm.
B John Robinson. Back to back B Robs. And then we got Tony Pollard at 5, Raheem Mostert at 6, Saquon Barkley 7, Derrick Henry, James Cook, Ramondre Stevenson, Tyler Algier, and Kenneth Walker. What do you think? Anyone on
Wow.
there you like? You don't like? Any FTGs?
Definitely some FTGs.
Derrick Henry. I know he's a lifelong FTG. We've been FTGing that guy before FTG was FTG.
Mozart, Mozart is also an FTG for me because he was a Browns practice squad guy. He couldn't make it as our third or fourth string running back, and then he just goes places, and I'm like, oh, he couldn't even make it as our practice squad running back, and he smashes everywhere he goes, and I'm
I
just
know.
like, he never has value, but he's always just gonna like score points, and he's the epitome of like a trash monster. I don't know, but yeah, so some surprising stuff coming into this. I still feel really good about a lot of the top dynasty rank.
Second. Are you back in here, Raymond? I had like a weird glitch.
See, yeah, no, from my side, it looked like I was in here the whole time, and then you weren't. I don't. Who knows?
Yeah, I'm gonna say my side did go blank for a second. And then I came back, and then you weren't there, and then I started talking, and then you came back. So looks like we're all good. Looks like we're still on broadcast and still rocking and rolling. So
Right.
just a slight asteroid passed over. It should have cleared, and we should be good to go again. But yeah, we were talking about FTGs, Raheem Mostert, and what was it? Some guys that you are you excited to see on this list? Anyone you're
Um,
buying
I'll
as a
buy
contender?
Brian Robinson.
Mm-hmm.
I think Brian Robinson's cheap, and I've said it before. Stats out there that every Alabama running back dating back to like TJ Yeldon has had at least 1,000 yard season, and the guy's coming on. He looks like they're really comfortable with him, and he looks like their guy. So if I could get him, you know, um, I don't know what the consensus price is on him right now, but I think I would add on to a second to get him if I had to. Something small, but
Would you do 2 seconds? a a mid to late.
Okay, if I'm giving mid to late seconds and it's a 24 and a 25 second, I,
Okay,
and I'm competing, I'll do it.
sure. Yeah, yeah. No, I know it's a deep 2024 class with quarterbacks, which is going to push a lot of receiver skills and running backs down to the second, even with a couple top tight end talents too. They're looking to go early, possibly as well. And, but yeah, once again, we're trying to win championships, and like as much as we do a lot of dynasty, there is a redraft mentality you have to kind of have a little bit in season, and I think once again Brian Robinson's a player I'm probably looking to maybe. Can you tier off of a Jonathan Taylor and pick up a Brian Robinson in a second? um, something like that. It seems like even like a low ball, or you might even be able to get a first with Brian Robinson, or wait until closer to JT's return and do it. But there's a lot of these are players I'd like to maybe tier down from bigger names and try to add a second, add a first, add 2 seconds, a second and a third, stuff like that for some of these players. And as I'm doing those tear downs, I'm looking to target that owner's year out pick. So I'll be looking for their 2025 seconds, because if they're making that move from me, they're probably trying to win this year. And if they're
Hmm.
trying to win this year, they're not likely to repeat, especially if they're adding guys like Brian Robinson. Like, no offense to Brian Robinson, but
Yeah.
as far as like a long-term dynasty asset, he's not the other B Rob. He is not Bijan. So I'm not really concerned about him maybe being a league winner 2 years in a row, or shoot, maybe even 1 year in a row. Yeah. But I do like the usage that B Rob's got so far.
Hmm.
I agree with you. He was a guy I was starting to buy a good amount of. I just kind of like this whole Washington Commanders offense in general. Is like a low key offense to buy. You could get Sam Howell, Brian Robinson, Jahan Dotson, Logan Thomas, all like damn near round 8 to 10 or later in
Yeah.
startups. So hey, I think
Yeah.
that was a solid offense to target.
Yeah. For me, Brian Robinson is kind of the reason why I'm going to stash up on those second and third round picks going into a draft, because ultimately you don't want to be trading for Brian Robinson. You want to be the guy that's drafting him. And, he's the epitome of kind of why you'll draft a guy. He was I believe, a third round rookie pick. And, we saw some dips from there. People were worried about Gibson. They were worried about, like, is he going to be able to take the field? But if you just drafted him in the third round and you just held on to him, like, you're very happy right now. You're ready to make a big profit. And so that's, I don't want to get too busy like chasing after guys like that. I would love to get busy setting myself up to acquire a bunch of guys with a similar profile in the future, so I can just kind of wait for the assets to come to fruition.
Sure. Yeah, and I get that mentality, but at the same time, like I am trying to win some of these leagues, depending upon the way my team's built. If I'm trying to win, I mean, I've got no problem riding Brian Robinson out through the season.
Oh yeah.
I know that there's a lot of sell for a second, sell for if I'm only getting an asset back, I'm not going to do it. Even a second and a third, that third is probably like a 20 to 25% hit rate anyways. Like I'm not evidently looking to do that. It seems like a lot of extra effort to try to move those picks back around to another running back that I'm hoping is just going to score like Brian Robinson. So
Right.
it's like, just get my B Rob now and try to acquire those seconds and whatnot, and tearing down my bigger named assets in other trades. A trade that I got done this week in one of my leagues, as I'm a contender and I had Mark Andrews on my roster. I was approached by another contender who wanted to get off of his Kyle Pitts onto my Mark Andrews, and want to see what the difference was. I asked for his 2025 first. I was able to get that deal done by throwing in like a little extra little player involved, Michael Wilson, and make that tier down. It's like even though Mark Andrews is scoring me more points, just getting that little extra asset that I can use later in those kinds of tier downs where I'm trying to stay in a similar tier, it's a lot easier to do in season. These tier downs we talk about in the off season, it's all theoretical value and rankings and keep trade cut, and it's pretty locked in with very little player movement. Right now, I mean, we're seeing players jump in 20, 30 spots in a week, up and down different directions, so you can take advantage of a lot of these moves. And honestly, part of that's taking advantage of those dynasty owners who are like, oh, I have Brian Robinson, he's doing good, I'll sell him for a second. Do it, man. Give him to me. I'll give you a single second round pick for Brian Robinson. Like, that is completely fine. No problem. So, when I'm just trading one unknown asset for a player that's scoring points for me right now, and I want those points on my roster, give them to me. I'm all about it.
Cool.
Let's go on to the wide receivers real quick. Wide receivers, I feel like are a little more predictable, like they have been in the previous seasons. We got number one, Tyreek Hill. Number two, everybody knew this, obviously, Puka Nacua. Number three, we got Justin Jefferson, Mike Evans, Keenan Allen, Nico Collins, our boy Nico. I love seeing this. Devonta Smith, Brandon Ayuk. That's like a whole strain of our guys. Stephon Diggs, Michael Pittman, CeeDee Lamb, and Josh Reynolds. Yeah, Josh Reynolds.
Josh who?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Joshua Reynolds, not Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Hmm.
Josh Reynolds. So yeah, any names on here that you're buying, you're selling, you're FTGing?
Um. Yeah. Well, obviously, there's the elephant name in the room, Puka Nakua, and he's
Okay.
the talk of the fantasy and dynasty town right now. I'm not a Puka guy. I'm at this point, like, if you are not already in on Puka and you don't already have it, it's best just to say FTG and let it roll because I'm looking at keep trade cut right here, and we got Puka Nakua wide receiver 27 over DJ Moore, Jerry Judy, Quentin Johnson, Terry McLaurin, Chris Godwin, Traylon Burks. I'm not paying that price. I'm not. I don't care if what he's doing is historic. I'll buy DJ Moore. I'll buy Terry McLaurin. I'll buy Traylon Burks. But I'm not. I'm not doing it. I'm not gonna buy Puka at that price.
Yeah, when you hear the names that are surrounding Puka, I mean it. I couldn't fathom honestly somebody saying, "Oh yeah, like hey, what do you want for Puka?" Like, well, give me DJ Moore in a second. I'm like, what? I gotta pay on top of Traylon Burks to get up to Puka. But I mean, I know, man. We've had this debate. I think it's just I've Puka's been like on my guy list since February. It's just I liked his name. I liked his his performance, and he was kind of a receiver that was just kind of banged up, and anyone who has that Senior Bowl buzz of going there for a day and then getting sent home because they've shown enough always makes me just keep that name on the radar. I feel like we saw that from Damian Pierce a little bit last year as well. We were like, oh man, this guy was just getting all the dog reports like, and then it kind of same thing with Puka started moving to the off season. It's like, all right, he's gonna have opportunity this year. And then the Cooper Cup injury goes down, and he goes out there and puts up 35 targets in his first 2 weeks. And I know you can sit there and say, well, Cooper Cup's going to come back, that you're going to have regression. from targets. I agree. Like Cooper Cup's not going to come in and just get 5 targets a game. But looking back 2018, 2019 and 2020, Robert Woods was a top 12 wide receiver all 3 of those years while also producing next to Cooper Cup. All I'm saying is in that Sean McVay offense with Matt Stafford, he hyper consolidates his offenses anyways, and right now he is goose egging Tyler Higbee. He's goose egging Van Jefferson, who've already been there and produced in an offense in the past. And if he can body bag those guys, I'm pretty sure that he's earned a role in that offense that's even going to keep him 7 to 10 targets a game. Cut his targets in half, and he's still going to end up with close to 100 targets on the season, which puts him in really rare air. And at that point, I think you have to forget about draft capital and where you took him in a startup or in a rookie draft or where the NFL took him, and just enjoy the ride, man. It's not all about making a profit. Sometimes it's about enjoying what life hands you. And they hand you a big fat puka, and you just gotta take life
Yeah.
by that puka and to coo it.
I hear you. I love it. I think there's a lot of good stuff there, but my thing is a bet on Puka Nakua is a bet on Matt Stafford's health right now because I don't think Stetson Bennett or who's their other guy, Brian Hoyer or somebody like that.
Somebody.
Anyways, I don't think the backup is gonna be able to support Puka and potential Cooper Cup return. And I don't trust Matt Stafford to stay healthy. And so you brought up the name Damian Pierce, and I could actually see him having Puka having a very similar arc to Damian Pierce over year one, where we saw Damian Pierce go from like a mid second round pick, and then he shot up and he was a top 10 running back at one point in time last season. The situation changes. He like fell down below that in the off season. The situation changed there, and now he's not getting the same workload. And we don't know what to do with him. People who were really invested don't want to get out cheap on Damian Pierce. People who had him in like they knew they could have gotten more than a first at one point now don't want to sell for a second plus. So like that's my fear is that I believe it's probable we can't predict injuries, but can Matt Stafford stay healthy? And I don't think the answer is yes. And then seeing how the quarterback situation will likely change in LA after this year, I think if we do see Stafford go down and then we see a new quarterback in there, nobody's going to know how to value Puka because we will have seen this amazing ceiling, but we now don't know if he has the guy to get him there. So I think that's the real risk that we have right now of going too overboard in like valuing him in the top 30.
Yeah, I get that point of not valuing in the top 30. If I'm doing a startup today, am I taking him as a top 30 wide receiver? Definitely not, man. I can't. I'm not gonna put my Puka love into a top 6 round startup pick. At that point, 6 7 round startup pick. That's just like way too rich for my blood. But I think the point is, I guess, where I feel like I'm coming from more is the fact that I got him in the 4th round or the 5th round or off the waiver wire.
Right.
Like the risk is nothing. The risk is a roster spot on my roster that was literally barely hanging on, waiting for 3 weeks into the season before I probably dropped him.
Right.
If he didn't perform. I do think the biggest risk if they get a second quarterback is more Tutu Atwell. Because, he is more of the slot receiver right now. He's more the field stretcher, wide receiver who's getting more of the downfield targets. And I think if you do see a Cooper Cup return and he stays healthy all season as well, he's a 30-year-old with lower body soft tissue injuries. I think that's something that often creeps back up through the season and tends to creep up a little bit more when your quarterback gets injured. So I think there's a chance that we could see maybe another. If Stafford goes out, it won't be the only time we'll see Puka without Cooper Cup in the lineup. But I do think just going forward, if cards go the right way, Cooper Cup stays healthy, Stafford stays healthy, Puka stays healthy, who he did have an injury history in college. That would honestly be my biggest concern is that he's not going to be able to
Well,
retain his value if he does sustain a 3 to 4 week injury. You'll see him immediately start to drop down 15 to 20 spots where you could lose any of the top 12 wide receivers currently for 3 weeks and they're going to pretty much maintain their position.
yeah. Well, and if he's going to average 15 targets a week like he is right now, that's a lot of contact. That's a lot of opportunities for injury. So yeah, like ultimately, if you were lucky enough to hit on Puka, I'm holding him unless somebody wants to give me a first that I'm excited about. I'll do that. I'll hold him for the points if unless I'm on like a rebuilding roster and I can get rid of him for a first rounder. I'm not buying him on a winning roster. I like when guys like Puka hit because now next year more people are going to chase a Puka like profile in the back part of a draft when I'm trying to just slam running backs and pick those guys up that are going to be more predictable. Not that Puka hasn't become predictable, but if anybody told you they were predicting this before week one, they're crazy.
Right, right. No, I 100% agree. I mean, it's very similar to like what we saw from Amon Ra in his first season. I don't know if it was Ray G or Scott Connor that was talking about it today, but like, you know, in that same draft class, if Rashad Bateman had came out with the same second half that Amon Ra came out with in his second half, Bateman would have been going for multiple first round picks as a first round wide receiver, and it would have been on. Where like last year or that the year after Amon Ra's breakout, you could still get him that off season for honestly even a couple seconds or like a decent receiver and something like he was very purchasable, and then it's just in what last week I saw he was up to wide receiver 3 on keep trade cut.
Amon Ra?
After yeah,
Or
after the Garrett Wilson, the Aaron Rodgers injury, but the Garrett Wilson situation, they moved him down, and Amon Ra had moved up to 3. I don't know if that changed over the weekend, um, but it just kind of like steam into a little something I want to talk about, just because there's a name that was missing off of this list that is on everybody's top 3 list. Do you happen to know who that name is?
I've got a guess, but I'll let you say it.
Jamarvelous Chase. Yeah, so Jamar, man, I had this talk a lot with Nate List last year about like how we're valuing Jamar Chase going into the season. I had sold a good amount of my Chase shares. I was tearing down from Chase to CD Lamb a lot last season and getting draft capital on top. And then, as the season started happening, obviously Chase, comes out week one, starts off as a wide receiver 4 overall. CD Lamb does not look good in week one, and Dak is, is already getting banged up. So, I was starting to feel the fool a little bit right away, but it's hard to deny that Chase has the ability as to be one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. But from a production standpoint, I just want to read off a few things here that I was looking at. So over the past 2 seasons, we have Chase and Higgins playing together. In year one, of Chase's rookie year, he had 5 weeks where he was wide receiver one, a top 12 receiver on the week. 3 of those weeks, Higgins was either out or limited during that game. So really 2 weeks where he was able to show that he was, the top player in fantasy, or at least a top 12. Week one, he was wide receiver four overall, but Higgins was out early in the game. Week 6 and 7, man, he was receiver one overall those 2 weeks. Overall, not even top 12, but overall with Higgins. But they also played the New Orleans and Atlanta defenses, which are some of the worst defenses in the league that year. Then he got injured his hip last season, comes back, Cleveland, week 14. He was wide receiver four overall, but Higgins was hurt on the first drive. So, I mean, man, like really, like overall, I mean, he's only had 6, 7 wide receiver one finishes. Most of them are without T. Higgins. Like, do you feel that he still deserves to be in the tier of Jefferson? Or do you think that he belongs? Is he closer to CD Lamb than he is Justin Jefferson?
Um, I okay, so I don't think that he's any closer to CeeDee Lamb than he is to Justin Jefferson. Honestly, I'd say he's like halfway in the middle. um, but the thing is, I've never really valued Jamar Chase in the same tier as Justin Jefferson because Justin Jefferson is just a freak. Jamar Chase has been number two for me and still is. But it's like its own tier. It's Justin Jefferson, then Jamar Chase, and then kind of getting into everybody else for me. And I still feel that way because we just saw Joe Burrow get paid highest played highest paid player in the NFL. And so I don't know if they're going to be able to pay Higgins. So you're saying like he's doing better without Higgins. What happens if Higgins is gone next year and then it's just wide open for Chase and then we are asking like could he challenge Justin Jefferson without anybody competing for targets with him?
Yeah, I get that if the door opens to just Jamar Chase, honestly, that would concern me more for Joe Burrow, to be honest, because he came from that LSU spread offense where he had a lot of wide receiver options to throw the ball to, and if you put him down to a very consolidated offense with just Jamar Chase, and then what, like Charlie Jones, or what are we doing
Tyler
here? Like Tyler
Boyd,
Boyd, like
Trent Irwin.
yeah, right. So we've got they want to make sure that he keeps his weapons, and I think that I do think it's more likely that T. Higgins takes a little bit of a pay cut than it is that he goes off and tries to set wide receiver records on his own. Because T. Higgins, on the other hand, he's producing a lot more top 12 weeks than you really would expect him to, and he's typically is putting up a lot of these with Jamar Chase on the field as well, which you have you know in Minnesota. I was getting a little nervous for Justin Jefferson because I felt like Addison was gonna at least take some target share, him and T.J. Hawkinson, but I mean he's still just as efficient and just as dangerous than ever. So
Mm-hmm.
I just think it's going to be a game to game dependent thing for Chase. I think he reminds me a little bit more of Tyreek Hill than he does of Jamar Chase, or than he does of Justin Jefferson right now. He's got that ability to take just about any play he touches to the house when he does get the ball, but there are coaches that are specifically trying to scheme him out of the offense. So I think you got to accept the lows and love the wins with Jamar Chase, but I just starting to feel like maybe that the distance from Lamb to Jefferson is maybe not as big as we were thinking it was before. Maybe he's closer to being in that tier as well, or is Chase moving down a tier? I just don't know if Jefferson's still in his own tier completely, or if he's got two people in that tier, or if maybe there's could be a third, or are we just waiting for Marvin Harrison Jr. to take that spot?
See, for me, I can't move Chase down right now just because everything that from this year that's pushing him down has everything to do with Joe Burrow's calf and him not being able to throw right now. If Joe Burrow's healthy and Jamar Chase smashed the last 2 weeks, we're not having any of these conversations. And like he can't throw the ball to himself. So, you know, I believe that like him and Burrow are going to be there together for a long time, and that connection is going to be there for a long time. Where, with CD Lamb, I'm wondering how long is Dak there? Like, can we count on the Dak and CD connection as long as we can count on Chase and Burrow? You know, what does it look like if Lance is throwing CD the ball? That's scary to me. I don't know. I can't move Jamar Chase down because of like a Joe Burrow injury that is just going to be a blip, in the long run.
Yeah, and I don't even think I like evidently want to move Jamar Chase down either. It's just whether it's now how many people are in the top tier.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's worth questioning whether Lamb can join them, and I think it's also worth questioning whether Chase and Lamb deserve to be in that tier at all, or if it's just Justin Jefferson by himself, or if there's a three-man tier. I don't think there's really anyone else outside of those three guys that I really feel like warrant that kind of price tag. Is probably you can get about three first for just about any of those players. Lamb's still probably closer to um, two first. But I did get three first and 3 seconds out of Lamb and Christian Watson right before the season. So there are still people that will pay that price, and man, it hurt my soul to trade away my Lamb. But you
Yeah.
gotta do what you gotta do sometimes. You gotta take that value.
Yeah.
Cool, man. I know we're getting kind of close to the 1 hour mark here. I know we want to talk about some roster construction, but I feel like
Yeah.
that almost warrants just about a whole nother show that we just need to kind of sit down and break down. I know as the season starts kind of getting on, and you've kind of got some life going on this week and the next week, I think. But I think hopefully maybe we can start here in the next week or two, starting to do two shows a week for everybody. That way we can have a good solid conversation about what just happened on Monday. And then we can start talking a little bit more about how we're handling our dynasty rosters and getting into the strategy of things. Because, with a lot of excitement and points and wins and losses, it can be real easy to mess up or completely dominate and set up your dynasty rosters for long-term success. So we want to help you guys kind of walk through how we maintain our dynasty structures throughout these crazy times.
Yeah. And it's also, I think it's important to have a rhyme and a reason to making moves, to making trades during the season here, because you can watch like all the videos on YouTube that you want and see, oh, this person's a good sell, this person's a good buy. You can go and do every one of those moves, and your team's probably going to suck because you didn't build it right. And so that's what I really want to hammer in is making sure that we have a good reason for everything that we're doing, making sure that we're staying on focus for what our vision is for our team. And it's not that we have to be rigid and inflexible, but we need to have a good enough reason to change something if we're going to do it.
Yeah, 100%, man. I'm excited to get into this whole conversation with you. I know we both have some similar roster build strategies, but we also have some not so similar roster build strategies and how we build some of our position rooms. So I'm excited to get into some of those and have some good conversation with you. And love to hear people's feedback. Join us in the Discord. I'll have a link below. Please click on it. We got questions of the day going on. We got trade show stuff we'd like to get going on as well. So, just trying to get a community of people, share thoughts, and have a good time. So,
Yeah.
uh, I'm the fantasy footboy. This is the Mushroom
Yeah.
Dynasty. Yeah,
We're the
yeah,
Dynasty
yeah. We know
Bebop.
we're the Dynasty Bebop, and we
We
out.
out.